Welcome to the second episode of Vinyl and Celluloid, the podcast. In this episode, we will be covering the Oscars 2019. My guest star today is my good friend Duarte Mendonça, a fellow Londoner, CNN reporter, and movie buff. So yeah, Duarte, thank you so much for the opportunity and for agreeing to be a guest star on this second episode. The Oscars season is here. It's the most wonderful time of the year, I guess, for movie buffs. And let's look at 2018. What are your thoughts? Was it a good year in your opinion? A bad year in terms of selection? And
I thought it was a good year. I don't think the Oscars are necessarily a good representative of that. I think a lot of movies missed out on various different genres. I mean, I've had amazing blockbusters that I had a really good time watching. To series of dramatic movies, even horror films as well, which kind of missed out on the cut too. I get some of those choices. I'm not baffled by it, even though I was actually quite surprised with some of the choices for this year's Oscars. But overall, I had a really good time going to the cinema this year or last year. Sorry. I was very happy with the different selection. I actually ended up doing my own top 10 at the end of the year.
As did I, and we overlap in some things, but
yeah. And but it's fine. You know, it's one of the things that I love discussing with people such as yourself, and because you get different perspective. Also, you get to learn about other films that you haven't really taken into account, I guess. But I think in some degree, there's just a lot of stuff that the Oscars overlooked, and it's just that time of the year that you say it's great for movie buffs. For me, just the time of the year where I get annoyed, just because there's a lot of stuff that I always feel like they've cut out for one reason or the other. That I'm not really in agreement, but there you go.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you on that point, and especially I think when the Oscars are announced tomorrow or this Sunday, it will eventually lead to a Twitter crash or something with some of the potential winners or upsets. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that some of the categories don't necessarily reflect the best, at least when it comes to all 5 nominees or 8 in the case of Best Picture. So my suggestion is we just go over some of the key categories and you point out which ones you feel that deserve to be there, why, and I'll do the same.
Okay.
And fair enough. We can start with actually the actor in a leading role. We have the 5 nominees, actually 4 of them playing real life characters or real people. Again, in terms of this selection, your take on it, who actually delivered the best performance, who should be there, and who will win, according to you?
So here's the thing then, because obviously one thing we missed out on saying, at least I missed out on saying, is that I haven't seen all the movies, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar with with most of the body of work of these actors. I've read a lot of the reviews. I know what they are capable of. So I have a bit of insight. I can give as much of an insight as possible.
Absolutely.
But I have seen some of them, and I was very impressed with a few of them, but I have to say, though, for instance, I look at Christian Bale, as amazing as he is, or at Bradley Cooper in particular, and we've had this conversation.
Yeah, we have.
I really liked Star is Born.
Star is Born,
I thought it was a great film, and I thought he was really good in it.
Yeah.
But then I look at someone like Ethan Hawke, who was left out for First Reformed. I think it's outrageous. I think that he has such a great body of work. I don't know how many times he's been nominated, but
he was nominated twice in acting and also for original screenplay with Richard Linklater for the Before the Sunset or
because he was right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a great artist. He's someone who's had his foot both in cinema and theater and TV as well. The guy has delivered some incredible performances, and as far as I can remember, this has been the best I've seen of Ethan Hawke. And so for me, that was a huge snub. Altogether with the movie itself, First Reformed, which I thought was terrific, and we saw it together.
Yeah, we saw it together, and I completely agree. It was on my top 10, and Ethan Hawke certainly deserved to be nominated. Yeah, even I mean William Dafoe was amazing, and Viggo Mortensen was very good as well. Again, with Christian Bale, I figured that it's yet another fantastic transformation. It's a solid performance. I just don't think there is the urgency to give him an award.
Agree. In all accounts, I mean, everything, to be honest, and I think it's because he is the center of this film. As much as Amy Adams and Sam Rockwell also got nominations, I mean, come on, he is definitely the best thing in it. But even then, I don't think the movie is that good to put some of the other elements out, or other actors and directors and so on. So yeah, agree with you. Transformation is great. Christian Bale is known for it. He's done it on plenty of occasions, and always delivered incredibly well. I just don't think it would be enough to make the cut. But he wouldn't be my first choice to take out. It would probably be Bradley Cooper first.
Agreed, completely agreed. But here I was pointing out in terms of odds of winning, and for a while, I believe since the first trailer came out months ago, long before the movie came out, obviously, he was the front runner. And what we saw is that, well, despite all the controversy surrounding Bohemian Rhapsody and the fact that it wasn't very well received by critics as opposed to audiences who loved the movie, he actually has been winning every single relevant award. And Christian Bale won 9 years ago. So I don't believe there is that type of rush. And when it came to actually making that replacement, I completely agree with you. It would be Bradley Cooper to go and Ethan Hawke in.
Yeah. I mean, and just to finish on that, though, not only would I put Ethan Hawke in there, I mean, again, I haven't seen William Dafoe or Viggo, but I've seen everyone else. And as you pointed out, Rami is collecting a lot of these awards. I mean, he's great, but I would still prefer Ethan Hawke to both Rami to Christian Bale. Certainly Bradley Cooper. So yeah, that would be my pick.
No, absolutely, he would be my pick as well. Again, I just forecast Rami Malek to actually win just because of all the accolades he's been collecting during this season.
Yeah.
Again, both William Dafoe and Viggo Mortensen are sort of Academy darlings. I'm not saying that they didn't deliver great performances, which they did. They're always nominated, but never a winner, I guess. But yeah, it's altogether a very competitive category. It would be even more competitive had Ethan Hawke been there.
Do you think there's a surprise here somewhere?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't think there will be a surprise in this category. For me, it's Rami Malek through and through. Okay. And that will be the thing. Your pick.
I mean, I would have to go based on what you were saying, on just the numbers, how he's won other awards, because I haven't seen At Eternity's Gate or Green Book yet, so I wouldn't be able to cast the full opinion in there.
Fair enough. And moving to actor in a supporting role, again, a very competitive category. Who do you think is missing?
I have two. Chalamet for A Beautiful Boy, and Jonathan Pryce for The Wife. So Glenn Close, she is getting a lot of praise, a lot of awards for her role in The Wife. I don't really see Jonathan Pryce as being that beneath her in this film. I thought he was incredible. The chemistry, the relationship between these two characters, or better yet, the two actors, is phenomenal. And I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Pryce. I was actually I saw him on stage right before I saw The Wife, and the man is just pure magic. I mean, he's such a great actor, and what he delivered in that movie was outstanding. And Chalamet, I mean, again, the kid's no surprise to a certain degree. I mean, everyone loves him nowadays, and no wonder. I mean, his performance in Call Me by Your Name was stupendous. He's also very charismatic, very lovable. So I think it's obvious that people just are rooting for him and want him to do well. And this movie, Beautiful Boy, even though it wasn't a great movie, it was still a good vehicle for him to showcase his talent, and he delivered that. Just that. I mean, I was very impressed by him. When I saw the movie at the cinema, I get it why it's not in contention for Best Picture or any other awards, but he certainly deserved to be there. And when I look at this list, there's a couple of actors that I would easily take away. I mean, Sam Rockwell for me is a joke. I love him. He's a great actor. I don't think his performance as George W.
Bush
was worthy of a nomination.
Well, other nominees in the past have won with 6-minute or 4-minute performances in supporting categories. So again, if we're going for impact and time on screen, obviously there is a precedent. But I agree with you. I don't think Sam Rockwell would deservedly be here.
But I'm not even like if his what was the record for the one to win? I think it was Anthony Hopkins with Silence of the Lambs, something like that. I don't know.
In leading, in supporting, you have Judi Dench
with
in Shakespeare in Love, and Beatrice Straight in Network 76.
Yes. So it's not so much the time on screen that I'm actually thinking about, even though obviously that has a huge impact. But it's really the delivery. I just didn't think it was that incredible. I mean, if I think about a great performance of George W. Bush, I always think of Josh Brolin.
Yeah,
that was a great Bush. I just thought that was a great sort of take on it. I just don't think Sam Rockwell was that amazing. Same thing with Adam Driver. I love Adam Driver. I think he's such a great actor. I fell in love with him. I didn't see the show Girls, but I started getting glimpses of him in several small roles, and I saw Patterson as well, which I thought was fantastic. And so I know he is able to. He's a great actor, and I'm not saying he was bad in it. But I just, again, I would always. It would be so easy for me to put Jonathan Pryce and Chalamet in that list over any of these two actors.
I agree with you with Jonathan Pryce. I haven't seen Chalamet's movie. Again, it's I look at this list and I find it very peculiar and interesting that you have Black Klansman, similar to what happened with Do the Right Thing, and you have movies by Spike Lee with focus on African Americans and impact in social context, etc. And the only nominees for both movies were by white characters. So it's very, very peculiar. And I believe there's a Saturday Night Live sketch mocking this, like nominating the guy who was a waiter at the restaurant just because he was white. But again, it's for me. Again, he was very good at it. Definitely a highlight. But again, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think Mahershala Ali. I know you really enjoyed Moonlight. He was terrific in Green Book. Again, Sam Elliott, despite my opinion on Star Is Born, he was for me a great character.
But agree. But I also maybe surprising for someone like me who actually really liked Star Is Born, and I really appreciate Sam Elliott's role in it. I also wouldn't mind ticking him off the list. I think it's up for discussion. Really.
Sure, yeah.
I'm not saying one was better than the other. I also really enjoyed Adam Driver. For me, definitely a go is Sam Rockwell. For me, should not be in that list. Period. Adam and Sam, different discussions to be had.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure who I would take out first.
Sure. Yeah.
But I would sacrifice one of those, I guess.
Sure, yeah. I mean, those are very valid options to get in. I think altogether this is a very... It's a good list, not a great list, all the 5 nominees. I still believe that Mahershala Ali will win, so I don't predict a very big upset in this category. And I mean... You have an example of an actor in a supporting role that won with like 3 years difference. So Christoph Waltz first for Inglourious Basterds, then for Django Unchained. So it's not unusual and it's very recent that this happens. So I can totally see him winning the award because again, his character versus all the other. I haven't seen Richard Grant in Can You Ever Forgive Me, but I believe that it's a cut above the rest, and it's actually I know it's Tony Lip's movie Green Book is about Viggo Mortensen's character, but Mahershala Ali in every scene, like you really it's almost like he should also be in the leading category, not in the supporting. But again, for me, from all the five nominees, he would be the one winning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I mean, he's certainly a fabulous actor who's done quite a lot of great stuff, and he's also been racking up quite a lot of awards.
Yes. So he missed out back in 2016 when he won the Oscar. He missed out the Golden Globe. And he, essentially this year he's been collecting all the right accolades, pretty much like Rami Malek in the leading category. So actress in a leading role, I mean, your take. I'll have to start this one because for me, Yalitza Aparicio was a bit of a shocker in the sense of, wow, they are recognizing her. She delivers a very good performance, but I was a bit surprised. I really loved Roma, but I really wasn't expecting them to deliver at least this level of recognition.
Yeah, I guess me neither. But after she was nominated, I kind of thought about it. I was like, yeah, you know what? It kind of ticks a lot of the boxes, and she does deliver a really good performance. So I would say that at least the Oscar nod is well deserved. I don't think she'll go on to win it.
No.
I think this is probably, just off the top of my head, I think this might be. I mean, this is certainly one of the strongest categories in the whole lineup because you do have an amazing group of women here who were all outstanding in her roles. I'm actually really curious to see Melissa McCarthy because.
Yeah, she certainly broke her typecast character, especially when she was nominated back in 2011 for Bridesmaids in a supporting role. So obviously she moved far away from that typecast role in even the buddy cop comedies with Sandra Bullock and whatnot. I think she was actually, at least from the reviews that I read, that she actually managed to break through and to deliver a solid dramatic performance.
Which we've seen loads of times. As in not from her per se. What I mean is the transition from a comedic actor into a dramatic role.
Bill Murray, for example.
No, there's the list is huge. Yeah. This actually brings up an old conversation from years ago with a cinema teacher back home in Portugal.
Yeah.
We were actually discussing the performance of Nuno Lopes doing comedy and going into a movie like Alice, where he delivered an amazing performance, and then he brought up a couple of other names, which he ended up saying my grandfather, who's an actor back home. And I came home, spoke to my mom, told her that we had this conversation. We've engaged in this amazing talk about something that I'll never forget. She said, "There's no bigger sadness than the sadness of a clown." And this is what she was justifying, as in like a lot of the actors, such as Robin Williams,
Jim Carrey,
exactly, Bill Murray, a lot of the Monty Python people who ended up going into more serious roles as well, and so on. Even Eddie Murphy as well, who's had a couple of more serious takes.
Yes.
The list goes on, but I'm just curious to see how she does it. I have to say though, out of the whole list, Olivia Colman for me.
Really, I was expecting you to be a hardened Glenn Close.
I thought she was amazing, but Olivia Colman for me was just. I was in awe of her. I really enjoyed The Favourite. I thought all three women were fabulous, and for you to still shine brightest in that amount of talent. With three really strong characters. I mean, the script is so strong. The dialogues are so strong. So everyone is given almost like an equal opportunity, but Olivia Colman still shines brightest. For me, that's a huge, huge thing. So yeah, that's my pick.
Really, I for one, I tend to think that it's Glenn Close, just because it's simply a career award. More than an Oscar for it. It's a solid performance, a great performance. But again, she has 30 years, even more, of acting behind her. Several nominations, never won, and she's one of those. I guess when people were focused about Leo winning an Oscar, there are other other actors that have been in the game for far longer and reaped tons of nominations and never won. And I think it will be sort of a career award to Glenn Close. But I agree with you. If there is a potential upset, it will be Olivia Colman.
I mean, yeah, Glenn Close has been winning most of the awards at the moment.
But Olivia Colman, she also, she's also very, very strong.
So shoulder to shoulder almost.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, yeah. I mean, the only reason why I'm tipping the scale, I mean, it's 50-50 here, but I'm tipping the scale towards Glenn Close is simply because it's the career and that need to acknowledge a body of work of decades.
Well, it wouldn't be a shocker for me.
Yeah.
I think just from my own personal perspective, in terms of my own appreciation, if it was down to me, I would hand it out to Olivia Colman. Glenn Close, close second perhaps. But yeah, if the Academy goes towards her, it's not a shocker because, as you said, and rightfully so, I mean, she has been in the game for way too long, delivering really good roles and not been acknowledged by it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, actress in a supporting role. I know that you, for me, and I'm gonna say this, and you already know what I'm gonna say. Marina de Tavira out, Claire Foy in. But again, I'm a First Man supporter, and we had this conversation off the record. I was actually shocked to see Marina de Tavira there. I mean, it shows the love the Academy had for the movie. But I actually, I think it's quite a straightforward performance, so nothing special about it. That's my opinion. Your take? I mean,
who else would you put in there though, aside from Claire Foy?
It's tricky because I don't have any specific any other choices to actually.
So
put
this is the thing that I was thinking as well, because I also couldn't come up with any other alternatives. I mean, I could come up with one alternative for the leading role. This is a personal thing for me. Toni Collette, for instance.
Yeah.
But for me, it's difficult to take any of these out. Whereas in the actress in a supporting role, I can think of a few that I can take out, but I don't really have anyone to put in. I don't agree with you with Claire Foy.
Yeah.
And I think she does have the best moment in the whole film.
But you just think it's a plain vanilla
performance. Thought it was, yeah.
No, that's like the dude said. It's like your opinion, man. But here it's interesting when we talk about or we think about potential or suitable nominees. I would say that for example, you had Nicole Kidman in A Boy Erased, who was an Oscar bait movie that didn't go anywhere. There was also Julia Roberts in Ben is Back, and several of other performances in those movies that actually could have made the list. Also, there was a big buzz around Margot Robbie in Mary Queen of Scots.
Yeah.
But again,
well, according to her, that was not her finest performance.
Well, fair enough.
Ever heard in the studios.
She would still love a win. I mean, this is where I can see a potential upset, and it would be Regina King. I think Emma Stone won recently, and there's regardless of her excellent performance. I think Amy Adams could pull a sneaky on this category.
I very much doubt that. I think it's going to be a fight till the death between Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz, with Rachel probably winning it.
Well, they both won in the past, so it will be. I think they will split the votes and all the love for the favorite. But yeah, I mean, this is where I can potentially see an upset.
I'm just thinking about Cold War. Is she? How would we establish her as a leading actress or as a supporting actress?
That's very curious because I mean I can give you an example of how complex that is. Al Pacino was nominated as Best Leading Actor in The Godfather at the Globes and the BAFTAs, and he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in The Godfather at the Oscars. So it's very difficult. I mean, it really depends on how the studio would choose to position her in terms of, how competitive both categories are.
Because if that was the case, I mean, if we were able to slot her into a best supporting actress, she would also be someone that, I mean, I thought she was
No, she made the movie
so good,
Yeah,
so good, and so yeah, that was also a name that I kind of thought was missing out on the list. But again, with the leading actress, it's a tough category to break in because all the names there are fantastic and all of them really deliver. Again, we've spoken about Roma and Alicia Aparicio, but even then, I mean, there's an argument to be made anyways, and it's all very subjective. But I thought she was terrific as well. And if she was to be slotted into Best Supporting Actress, I would definitely consider that, particularly over Marina de Tavira.
Fair enough. We go through animation feature, or you don't have pretty much...
Well, I can say I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was amazing.
I think it will win. I mean, from the list, I've only seen Incredibles 2.
Man, I don't even need to look at this list because I've seen a lot of epic cartoons who have won the Oscar for Best Animated Picture. Some of which who have been nominated for even Best Picture, like
yes.
Up, for instance.
And Toy Story 3.
And Toy Story 3, exactly. I mean, this movie is in a league of its own. It's so good. And you don't need to be like, I'm a really geeky guy. I love comic books. I've still, I watch all the movies. I keep across all of the stuff. I read a lot as a kid into my late teens. And so... even though you take a bigger kick out of this if you're a Spider-Man fan, because there's a lot of references to the comic books, to the cartoons, to the movies, and so on. Even if you don't have all that knowledge, you will still enjoy this thoroughly.
I think that's another conversation for us to have, because it's actually the trend, or at least the direction that which superhero movies, animated or not, are going into. So essentially tackling both fans and non-fans, and maybe being a bit more segmented, and we'll get to that when we talk about Black Panther. I mean, but I agree with you as Spider-Man being the clear winner. I mean, obviously, I think we should, just because of the fact the Academy wanted to get rid of the cinematography acceptance speech, I think we should go into this one. Roma versus Cold War for me.
Agree, and I'm. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I loved Cold War.
Yes.
I know there's a few things. I mean, Roma is also beautiful. I mean, the opening. And this is no spoiler for those who haven't seen it yet, but the opening credits, when you can just see the water just going down the drain
and the plane,
exactly, and you stay in that shot for about 5 minutes or so. Yeah. It's super long, but it's so, it's like delicious. It's just so good to watch and to sort of absorb the sounds and the picture and the every single little detail. It's just beautiful. That for me is it's just a standout thing. Because I think it's quite, it's quite a bold move to open a movie in such a sort of slow
pace. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you just stay with the one shot so long, but it's so good. So I absolutely love that, and I think that's one of the examples I always talk about when I'm talking about how beautiful the movie is, and cinematography in particular, and so on. But Cold War for me is a level of consistency that just is able to nudge. I think Roma. For me, a little bit. But again, if someone says otherwise, I'm not going to say, "Oh, you're crazy." No, it's just so difficult to pick.
Same here. I think they both the choice to shoot in black and white obviously is at least for me linked to the gritty subject in both situations, either post-war Eastern Bloc or 1970s Mexico. So yeah, but I think in both movies the decisions are well made, and every single shot. I mean, you have that establishing shot, and then they keep track of the guy, of the leading character in Roma, just over the street, etc. And it's beautiful, and even the scene at the beach, which will not go into details, but it's very, very well shot, and it's simply amazing, and it's part of the experience of actually watching the movie. And if I may say so, I'm glad that the Academy chose to give it proper recognition or put it back. I don't have a favorite here. I would say maybe Cold War will get the edge, but let's see.
I hope so. But mainly because, and this is jumping to a different subject. I know we'll get into that later, but also because as an overall, I know I can be slightly biased towards it because I preferred Cold War as in favor of Roma.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's the same here. So yeah, we'll move to directing. I mean, a very diverse and I would say well accomplished list. I know you disagree. You would love to see a certain Barry Jenkins mentioned here, or
well, there's two. So there's one which I know is a complete outsider. But I think she would tick a couple of boxes to a certain degree. Deborah Granick, I think it's how you say it.
Yeah.
She's done Leave No Trace.
Yes.
I thought that movie was stupendous. I've known Ben Foster for a while. I know he's a very, very well accomplished actor. And then there's the kid who now the name is escaping me, but she was also terrific. I really enjoyed the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the performances were great, but I thought the directing really was the key element of it.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping that she would get a nod. And I don't know, part of me was a bit naive also into thinking maybe that, she's a director, a female director and all these things. And the Academy sort of was pushing for more female presence.
Yes.
Which again, I'm not saying we should do things to tick the boxes. Again, Black Panther ticks a lot of boxes, and I don't agree with a lot of the choices. I do think that she would be ticking the boxes deservingly, though, because I thought she was such an outstanding person to direct that film, Leave No Trace. Barry Jenkins is a tough one, because as we were discussing before we started rolling on this, I haven't seen If Beale Street Could Talk. I'm a big fan of Moonlight. I got the chance to meet Barry Jenkins a couple of years ago when he came over to CNN, and to tell him how much of an impact his movie had, and how desperate I was for his follow-up, and not knowing obviously that he had If Beale Street Could Talk under his sleeve.
Oh, that's right.
But I just find it surprising because it's a movie that's been doing really well with the critics. Audiences apparently have also enjoyed it, as far as I know. And after winning the Oscar with Moonlight, I thought, you know what, this guy is going to have another Oscar nod for sure. So I was surprised not to see his name there. But again, it's a strong list, I guess.
Well, I would say that obviously Cold War was a bold and refreshing choice. I wouldn't argue against Black Klansman. Spike Lee deserves it. The favorite deserves to be in this race as well. Roma, Alfonso Cuarón does a great job. In my opinion, I wasn't a big fan of Alfonso Cuarón's, most of his movies.
You didn't like Harry Potter?
Part 3, no. I didn't like Gravity, and I didn't think he deserved to win for that movie, but still.
I love Gravity.
the only... I think here the outsider would be Adam McKay, and I know that since The Big Short, which I loved, was... he became an Academy darling, but... for me, Vice is just too extremely... Well, it's fueled by a very specific agenda, and I think it's pretty much like if...
Which they don't... I don't think they deny it, though. They try and be balanced, but they never spoke to Dick Cheney. All Adam did was read a lot of biographies.
Sure, but he took it as a chance to tackle every single president. You have a scene with Ronald Reagan, and it doesn't add anything. You don't even see his face, but we just need to mention that Ronald Reagan was also part of the
problem. You're right. I just think when he approached the film, and even I think he mentioned it. I think at the opening of the film, he just makes himself look less accountable for his views in the movie. Even the ending, which I don't want to. Oh well, it sort of reflects on the choices made to narrate the story.
True. Okay. I think the ending was it delivered a punch. I would say pretty much like Black Klansman did in a different way, but still very effective. What I would say is that Adam McKay was just he was a good choice to direct this movie, but I compare him like The Big Short is his Wall Street if we're talking about Oliver Stone, and I guess Vice had the potential to be his JFK and was a bit more his Nixon. And Nixon, I don't know if you recall the movie with Anthony Hopkins. I mean, it had the potential to fully get Oliver Stone in his liberal platform and soapbox, and he actually tackled everything with a very sympathetic light. I think this is different for Adam McKay in Vice, but I don't think I was expecting a bit more of a Big Short approach, and less the route he went down with.
Well, yeah. I mean, but there's so much of Big Short in it, though. One of the issues that I had with Vice was that I thought it was slightly formulaic at points. For me, it was like Big Short meets House of Cards. Even with that piece to camera that Christian Bale then delivers, when he breaks the wall.
The wall.
It just there's a lot of reminiscences of House of Cards with the same sort of editing style to Big Short, the use of cameos and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wasn't. I like Adam. I've loved what he's done with the Big Short.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was expecting more when I saw Vice, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, well, same here. So again, tackling just 3 more categories, I would say, which are documentary feature, because we have a strong opinion there. I would say foreign language movie and best picture, obviously. Starting with documentary feature. Again, we all know what's missing from this list. It's a little gentleman with a yellow cardigan, asking if you wouldn't mind being his neighbor.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, yeah.
Yeah, that documentary was, in my personal opinion, one of the best things I've seen in a long time.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by the character to begin with. I think he's also an inspiring character that we should really all put our eyes on and sort of shape ourselves to be in some degree. I'm a very emotional guy. I take things to heart very easily. I just allow myself to really flow with these things, and I was bawling. I mean, I even showed, after I saw the documentary, I showed the trailer to my mom, and even with the trailer, I was in tears already.
Yeah.
Even listening that music in the background and just hearing some of the sound bites. There are some really, really incredibly moving parts in that documentary. The archive access is phenomenal.
Yes.
The storytelling is superb.
And the message is relevant. So
absolutely. Now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
Absolutely. So I was very disappointed. In my mind, I thought to myself, this is not going to get nominated. This is going to win. This is no chance anyone is coming close to this.
Yeah.
I had it on my top 10 list. I had it as a number 1. Actually skipped to number 2 for another feature, which is actually part of the foreign movies, and we'll get to that in a second. But for me, it was just like no doubt in my mind that I was going to win best documentary. So when it was missed out, I remember like going onto Twitter and just ranting about it.
I recall reading it.
I almost wanted to stick a pillow to my face so I could scream, just to take all that anger out, because I was really invested in this movie to win, and I really wished that everyone came across, because obviously getting nominated is such a huge advertisement.
Yeah,
isn't it?
especially in this category, because documentaries, I mean, who can name all of them, or the pictures that win in this category?
Exactly.
So definitely.
So I thought to myself, if there's a movie that needs to get out there, that people need to see, and if you're listening to this, please do and go watch it, because it is outstanding, and I think it will inspire you to be a better person, and to also try and inspire others around you to do the right thing, and to be the best that you can be, I think.
Well, I heard. I'm not gonna add anything there, because you said it all and you said it great. I think, from the list or what we have, it will probably be Free Solo. One of our mutual friends, Mr. Pedro Ramos, he was fascinated by this movie. He doesn't go to the movies that often, or as often as we do, and he was completely amazed. And he's not the only person. I heard like other non-climbers have enjoyed it immensely, and the quality speaks for itself. So in the absence of Won't You Be My Neighbor, I would say Free Solo for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. One other mention though that I would like to put in there in this documentary that I saw and I thought was fascinating. I was also surprised for it not to be in the list. 3 Identical Strangers. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't, no.
The premise is like incredible. It's basically triplets who had no idea they existed, so they were all sort of living under the same area, so to speak, and they by accident find out that the three exist. They get together. It becomes a huge story in the United States.
Okay.
And then the documentary then dwells into why they were separated at birth. And just the reasons behind it, and it's very, very complex. It's really fascinating. It's really well told, and
I have to put it on my list.
The characters are also very interesting. So definitely, that's something that I would put up there for consideration.
For sure, I'll have to watch that one. So, in foreign language film, again, it's a competitive category, and I haven't seen, despite your recommendation, Shoplifters. I haven't had the opportunity yet. I think this is the category that excites you the most. So again, let's hear what you have to say on this.
It's I don't know. Like I last year when I looked at the Oscars, I thought to myself, the strongest theme here is women, right?
Yeah.
Particularly both on the leading and the supporting actresses. I thought the script writing, the narratives developed for these women was incredible. That they gave them the right platform for them to showcase their talent, because obviously there's a huge conversation going around about the discrepancy between the roles and movies made for men and women. And I thought last year all the best pictures, all the best characters were all around women. Mm-hmm. For me, when I look at a theme of sorts, which is not really a theme, but where I look at being the strongest is probably the foreign films. On my top 10 list, really high on my top 5, I would say there's 3 of the foreign films nominated.
Yeah.
Shoplifters was by far my favorite film of the year. Mm-hmm. I was weeping like a little boy at the end of the movie. I thought it was very sweet, very tender, really well acted. Gives you a really nice but sad window into the reality in Japan. The poverty, the living in the ghettos and so on.
Yes.
Which is something that I'm not usually, even though I work in news, it's not something that I really reflect upon or look into.
Or confronted with,
exactly.
I would say. Yeah.
So I think also that there's also the importance of that, the theme, just getting something like out there and just also getting people more interested maybe. I'm not saying that you should take that for granted as being the reality, but certainly something that you need to sort of embrace in some ways and just dig in, just find ways of learning more, because it is a fascinating part of the world and obviously a huge problem over there. Mm-hmm. And the movie tackles it so well. So that for me was my favorite film of the year, and definitely the strongest out of the whole movies. We all know who's going to win it though, which is Roma.
Well, it really depends. And then we're starting to tackle into the last category, Best Picture. So historically, if you look at it, pictures that have been nominated in both categories, Best Picture and Best Foreign Film, they win one. And they usually win Best Foreign Film. Now, if Roma manages to win Best Picture, I believe they will give this Oscar to Cold War.
I just find that so weird that you would have a movie winning Best Picture and then not winning. I can't remember. Was it Life is Beautiful?
Won Best Foreign Picture and was nominated for Best Picture, but didn't win. Amour as well in 2012.
Yeah, exactly.
More recently, it's pretty much. It's confusing, but again, one thing that's very interesting is that, for example, Roma wasn't eligible, not because being a Netflix movie, but because it wasn't an English movie, or, actually an American movie. It wasn't eligible for Best Picture Drama at the Golden Globes, so it had to automatically win in that category. So it eliminates the overlap. I think they will recognize it in one way or the other, but again, it will be if Roma wins Best Picture, then the Best Foreign Film will go to Cold War, in my opinion. Maybe Shoplifters.
Shoplifters for me. I'm very. This is also one of the reasons why I'm so interested in this category, because I just want to see how this all unfolds. If Roma goes ahead to win the Best Picture, if it does or doesn't win this category for Best Foreign Film, my pick is Shoplifters. followed by Cold War, followed by
Roma.
Roma. And Capernaum, I'm really curious to see it. I'm going to see it on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing the advertising.
But I've heard incredible things about it. I've spoken to a colleague of mine who's also a huge movie buff, and he was absolutely delighted. He said it was really tough to watch. It's just a very, very hard, saddening movie to see, but he said it was stupendous. So also really looking forward to seeing that.
On the list as well. And, well, in the interest of time, we'll just focus now on the big one, the big picture, best picture. It's interesting. I actually compiled a list of how to eliminate some, and this is based on statistics, not on my own opinion. I mean, let's just quickly go over the nominees. What do you think? I mean, for me, it's not the strongest lineup by far in this last decade, even perhaps the last 20 years. I see some great movies here, but I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody was for me. I know it's a crowd pleaser, but it was puzzling.
Dude. Fuck. I don't even. I was desperately trying to control my cursing there. It's as average as it gets. It's a Sunday. It's like a nice Sunday
Popcorn
afternoon movie.
Yeah.
That is it. He is great. Rami is amazing. It's funny. There's some really cool moments about it, but it's just very vanilla in various ways. Also, one thing that really pisses me off is some of the historical inaccuracies as well.
Oh yeah. For people who love and know the story of Queen and Freddie Mercury, it's
and we all know they have to tweak a few things for dramatic purposes.
Sure.
But I mean, some of the changes were not necessary at all. If anything, it actually just took away from the drama in some ways. Also, I find it baffling that you have two of the musicians from the original lineup, Brian May and Roger Taylor, involved as executive producers or something like that. And they allow for this to go ahead. Maybe they haven't. I don't know what goes behind the scenes, but I just find it really surprising that they would have not a say in some of the choices made. And then another thing that comes to mind is I remember when Sacha Baron Cohen was being considered for the main role as Freddie Mercury, and one of the reasons apparently that he backed out of the movie was because they were doing it in a very soft, safe version. They were not getting into the nitty gritty of what Freddie stood for, his career, his life,
his persona. Exactly. Yeah.
And so all of these things combined, for me, Bohemian Rhapsody is a missed opportunity in doing an incredible film to just deliver a movie that you'll watch once on a Sunday afternoon. It's not memorable. You will not watch it again.
It is forgettable. I completely agree there. And I would go a step beyond. For me, what's most puzzling is the fact that it's nominated for Best Film Editing, arguably one of the worst aspects of the movie. I honestly, when I left the movie, the first thing they asked was like, "Oh yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it because everybody was clapping and cheering, etc. But the editing was shit. Sorry." And I then looked and when the nominations were announced, and I was like, Bohemian Rhapsody, why? Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, from all the other nominees, I would guess you as a comic book enthusiast aficionado, Black Panther. 10 years later, finally, a superhero movie gets nominated. Was it the right choice?
Man, I if I look at all the comic book movies that have come out over the years, I mean, I would not put Black Panther within a top 10.
Yeah.
Per se. I don't even need to look into I don't even need to look into like a Nolan's Batmans or Tim Burton's Batmans or Richard Donner's Superman back in the day. I don't need to look at any of those. I could just stick with Marvel. I could just stick with the Marvel movies and make a top 10 list that doesn't include Black Panther. Black Panther was great. I had a great time watching it in the cinema. I thought the casting was fantastic. In particular, Michael B. Jordan, Ryan, who's behind the camera,
Ryan Coogler.
He's fantastic. I mean, I've liked Ryan Coogler from Fruitvale Station, from Creed, of course. I mean, he's worked on several occasions with Michael B. Jordan, and so all of these things were super promising for me. When I got to see it, I actually really enjoyed it. Wakanda was
Yeah.
this incredible world, really well executed. So many good things about it were terrific. But come on, I mean, I don't like what. How long ago was it that we had Logan, for instance?
I believe 2016,
I
2015.
mean, I know Logan got an Oscar
Nomination
nod
for
for
screenplay. Yeah.
and that was great. That was groundbreaking.
It was.
But I mean, why are we trying to push Black Panther to break those? What? Because we're going into these sort of like African culture and all these things.
Yes.
The diversity and stuff.
Yes, and that's the future, in my opinion, of the superhero genre. You'll probably see more ethnic or specifically focused characters for specific segments. You have Jason Momoa. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name,
Yeah.
but for example, he's tackling, okay, it's the first time you have somebody from the Pacific Islands actually leading or being the lead in a movie. You have Captain Marvel. First time Marvel actually has, let's ignore
Gal Gadot with
no.
Roman, or-
That's Warner.
DC.
I'm talking about Marvel.
Oh.
Not DC. No, the Jennifer Gardner Warren Elektra.
Or Electra, yeah.
Or even Hale Berry's Catwoman.
Catwoman,
So we were ignoring that, but for the first time, at least with somebody or a studio or a production with a reputation, we'll tackle that. And that for me, I think it's the direction, and this is pretty much a validation of that direction, because they will essentially try to say, okay, we're tackling the fans and
Hey, but that's
casual viewers.
But that's why we have MTV Movie Awards for.
I completely agree, but that's why the Oscars wanted to get the most popular movie award to give
Yeah.
it to Black Panther, and that would actually get it the MTV Movie Awards. I mean,
I acknowledge the importance of what you just said, and I think it's crucial to have that diversity and so on. But I mean, you just can't force something like that, because it was an. I mean, I think for most people it was an obvious standout, wasn't it? I think people just looked at it and said, "What? Black Panther is on the list." I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of people backing it as well, but I think they're backing it for the wrong reasons.
True. I mean, you see that actually superhero movies had an impact, and we need to look 10 years ago with Batman, with The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. It was the fact it wasn't nominated, and the backlash, and the fact that 2008, in my opinion, was a very weak year for the five nominees. That was the absence of that movie was what resulted in the expansion to 10 movies.
Yeah.
Now the issue was you started to have movies like The Blind Side and Extremely Close and Too Loud or something. What was the movie? I don't recall the title. You start having movies that weren't necessarily fantastic, right? And again, not memorable, and so they decided to go back and scale it, but they still wanted to include some diversity, and I agree. This is probably their chosen cause for this year. I mean, from the list, I'll have to say I'll speak a bit now. I think from all the 8 nominees, I mean, you need to look at the things that make a winner, and that's having a presence in directing, editing, acting, and screenplay. And I mean, Black Klansman, The Favorite, Vice, and Green Book. Well, Green Book doesn't have Best Director, but they are the ones that tick most of the boxes. And recently we had Argo, that was directorless winner. So it can happen, but without editing, and that's the case with Roma, with Black Panther, and even A Star Is Born. Without that, you need to go all the way back to 1981, Ordinary People, or Birdman, but that movie was special and won because of the absence, or at least not obvious, editing. So for me, from these 4, then you have to take into account box office, and Vice didn't perform. So yeah, it will be interesting because it's either Black Klansman, The Favorite, or Green Book from the list. Your take.
I mean, if I'm looking just at those 3, certainly go with. I mean, if I look at the whole list, for me is The Favorite.
The
It
Favorite
was the standout movie out of the Best Picture. Roma was amazing too, as I said before. But again, even looking at Roma in the best foreign films, I would still prefer the other 2, Cold War and Shoplifters.
And plus, Roma still has the stigma of being a Netflix production.
Yeah.
And that certainly killed, back in 2016, the chances for Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah. The Favourite for me is no doubt. I mean, it was a movie that I was completely in love with when I left the cinema. I thought everything about it, the directing was great, the editing was great. There were some really quirky angles and stuff like that that I sort of questioned myself whether or not that was good. But actually, I thought he's pushing the envelope. He's trying different things, and it actually worked. It didn't disrupt the flow of the film. If anything, it just
helped.
Yeah, exactly. The use of music, which in some points was kind of understated, and other times was just dominating a scene to a degree, but never to a point that would distract me enough from the performances taken in that movie. And I just don't refer to the three ladies in the film. I also love Francis Nicholas Holt's character. He has some really funny quotes in that film. He's an idiot, but he's so funny to watch and just delivers a good character and helps to bring a bigger balance to the movie.
True, and it's actually one of the few from this list, and excluding Vice, from these three, it's the only movie without a controversy associated with it. So you have the Black Klansman, not entirely true. Green Book, same. So The Favourite actually is a safer bet. Again, I'm still sticking with Black Klansman, not as the movie that I would pick, but actually as the one who I believe will win. You stick with The Favourite, and we'll see who's right, if any, soon enough.
But I have to say, though, I am so not invested in...
No.
Well, I say every year I say this, and then when the Oscars come out, I get really upset.
Yeah.
Because the ones that I wanted to win didn't win. But, I mean, certainly a lot of really good stuff in this year's... nominees.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing particularly the best picture and the best foreign film.
Best foreign film as well.
If I would wish that you were right and that there's a surprise in the sense that it's not Roma taking over the award, but someone else, and then we'll see who it goes. Both Cold War and Shoplifters,
they are the front runners after that. Fantastic. So that's it for our episode. Eduardo, thank you once again.
No, thank you very much for having me.